World War II, a defining period of the 20th century, left behind numerous secrets, artifacts, and historical sites. One of the most intriguing aspects of this era is the discovery of hidden treasures, wrecks, and locations, revealing the untold stories of World War II through its physical remnants. Join us as we show you 15 of the most incredible discoveries from World War II. Number 15. The Amber Room. The Amber Room stands as one of the most intriguing and mysterious losses of World War II. Originally constructed in the 18th century for the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg, this ornate chamber was built from over 6 tons of amber backed with gold leaf and mirrors. A stunning masterpiece of Baroque art and architecture, the Amber Room was dubbed the 8th wonder of the world. In 1941, during the Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union, the Amber Room was disassembled and transported to Königsberg Castle for reconstruction. However, as the war ended and the Allies closed in, the room vanished. Its disappearance sparked decades of extensive but unsuccessful searches by the Soviets and Russians. The trail went cold, with the Amber Room's location remaining one of World War II's most confounding unsolved mysteries. Various theories have circulated about the lost Amber Room's fate. Some believe it was destroyed by wartime bombings, while others think it remains hidden away in a secret location or in private hands. Despite expeditions scouring bunkers, mines, and castles across Europe, the original has never been found. The mystery took a remarkable turn in 1979 when efforts began to reconstruct the Amber Room. Using old photographs and research, German and Russian craftsmen worked painstakingly for over 20 years to recreate the lost artistry in amber, gold, and mirrors. The replica room was finally completed and opened to the public in 2003, installed in its original home at the Catherine Palace. While the fate of the priceless original Amber Room may never be known, the meticulous replica is a testament to creativity and determination. Visitors continue to marvel at its splendor, once again dazzled by the meticulous beauty of this 8th wonder. Though the war led to its tragic loss, the Amber Room's revival celebrates the triumph of artistry and culture over conflict and destruction. Number 14. Hitler's Führer Bunker. Few places evoke the downfall of Nazi Germany more than Hitler's Führer Bunker. This underground complex near the Reich Chancellery in Berlin was designed as a refuge for Hitler and close associates during air raids and in the war's final phase. It was here that Hitler spent his last weeks as the Third Reich crumbled before meeting his death within the bunker. Construction of the massive bunker complex began in 1936 and expanded until 1944. Multiple floors housed living quarters for Hitler and Eva Braun, offices for the Nazi leadership, a medical station, and a telephone exchange. The walls and ceilings, measuring nearly 2 meters thick, were reinforced with concrete and steel to withstand bomb blasts. On January 1945, as Soviet forces approached Berlin, Hitler took up permanent residence in his bunker. Here, he oversaw the last desperate defense of Berlin as the Allies tightened their grip. Food and supplies dwindled with each passing day as artillery shook the complex. After marrying Braun, Hitler committed suicide on April 30, 1945, 2 days before the Soviets seized the bunker. The Soviets subsequently attempted to destroy the bunker, though it was never fully demolished. The bunker's exits were filled in and sealed. Later, the area was paved over, with the site marked until 2006 only by a small sign. Archaeologists confirmed the bunker's location in the 1990s through excavations that unearthed various artifacts. Today, an information board is all that indicates the infamous site near the former Reich Chancellery. Germany resists further commemoration to avoid it becoming a neo-Nazi shrine. Number 13. The Enigma Machine. Emerging as one of the most iconic symbols of World War II's vast and shadowy theater of code-breaking is the Enigma Machine. This intricate encryption device, originally created for commercial use, was adopted by the German military as a formidable tool for secure wartime communication. The Enigma and the Allied effort to crack its supposedly unbreakable codes played a pivotal role in the outcome of the conflict. The Enigma machine was developed in the early 1920s by German engineer Arthur Scherbius. Based on an earlier design, it used a series of rotating mechanical rotors to scramble plain text into encrypted messages. The German Navy and Army swiftly recognized its potential for secure communication and purchased versions to encrypt their radio traffic. Various models of the Enigma were utilized, but all operate on the fundamental principle of their complex, ever-changing internal wiring and rotations. The military versions also incorporated extra security measures, including additional rotors, plugboard settings, and key procedures. This made the number of potential internal configurations astronomically high. The complexity of the Enigma ciphers convinced the Germans they had achieved unbreakable encryption. But a team of Allied codebreakers, led by pioneering computer scientist Alan Turing, successfully cracked the Enigma through brilliant insights into its weaknesses. The intelligence derived from decrypted Enigma traffic proved vital to Allied naval efforts in winning the Battle of the Atlantic and helped pave the way for the D-Day landings. After the war, captured Enigma machines were extensively studied by cryptologists and became museum pieces. They remain perhaps the most iconic embodiment of World War II's shadowy intelligence battles. The story of the Enigma and the Allied codebreakers who defeated it exemplifies how intellectual acumen and advanced technology helped turn the tide against tyranny. Number 12. Toxic base in Greenland. On the frigid, remote island of Ikatek off the coast of Greenland lies a grim relic of World War II, an abandoned U.S. military base that is leaking toxic waste into the environment. Known as WW2, the base was established in 1941 as part of an agreement between the United States and Denmark, which controlled Greenland at the time. Built hurriedly, the base housed up to 200 personnel and provided a strategic foothold for weather forecasting, rescue missions, and other operations vital to the Allied war effort. But after World War II ended, the Americans departed WW2, leaving behind a toxic mess. Staff dwellings, military vehicles, machinery, and scrap metal litter the site. Even more concerning are the hundreds of rusted fuel drums filled with diesel, aviation fuel, and other hazardous substances seeping into the tundra. According to reports, the base also contains buildings with asbestos and lead paint, drained fuel tanks, and even cases of discarded dynamite. This dangerous debris contrasts starkly with Ikatek's otherwise pristine landscape of rocky hills and icy fjords. The Pentagon evaded responsibility for cleanup by citing the original 1941 agreement with Denmark relinquishing the U.S. from later remediation costs. But for nearby Inuit communities, the sprawling toxic relic poses troubling health risks and a reminder of being powerless during the base's construction. WW2 is unfortunately not the only derelict U.S. military site leaking toxic waste in Greenland. It is estimated over 30 bases were built across the island during World War II and the Cold War, and many are now left to corrode. Addressing this unacceptable legacy will require renewed commitment. In the meantime, the abandoned base remains a warning about the unseen costs of war and the consequences of forgetting those who bear the burden long after the fighting ends. Number 11. Buried British Spitfires. One of the most intriguing legends to emerge from the waning days of World War II involved the supposed burying of dozens of British Spitfire fighter planes in Myanmar, then known as Burma. As the story went, advanced new Mk-14 Spitfires were crated up and buried around airfields in Myanmar at the war's end in 1945. The prospect of lost Spitfires captured the imaginations of aviation enthusiasts and war historians for years. The Spitfire achieved iconic status during the war for its sleek design and superior performance. The thought of perfectly preserved examples buried and forgotten was tantalizing. Through interviews and scattered evidence, it seemed possible that up to 124 new Spitfires in crates could have been buried as the war wound down. Excavations began in 2012 at Yangon International Airport, led by British farmer David Cundall, who became obsessed with the legend. However, despite extensive surveys, no buried Spitfires were found at that site. Further excavations in 2014 and 15 at other rumored burial spots in Myanmar also proved fruitless. By early 2017, after over $10 million had been spent on the searches with no tangible results, most historians had concluded that the buried Spitfires were an urban legend. While the buried Spitfires ultimately proved a myth, the excavations were not a complete loss. Parts of lost aircraft were uncovered, shedding light on wartime military installations. The fruitless searches also illuminated the challenges of reconstructing fragmentary historical events and validating folklore. The missing Spitfires of Myanmar represent a tantalizing what-if of history, a fascinating story that fueled excitement about undiscovered World War II artifacts. Though buried planes were not found, the excavations wrote another chapter in the complex and often unpredictable history of that momentous global conflict. Number 10. The legendary Yamashita's gold. Few legends from World War II capture the imagination like that of Yamashita's gold. This mythic hidden treasure takes its name from General Tomoyuki Yamashita, the Japanese commander who oversaw forces in the Philippines near the end of the war. According to the legend, Yamashita's troops looted billions of dollars worth of gold bullion and precious treasures from Southeast Asia. The Philippines was a Spanish colony for over 300 years, and during that time, the Spanish accumulated a vast amount of gold and other wealth. When the Japanese invaded the Philippines in 1941, they quickly captured the capital city of Manila and began looting the city's banks, churches, and other institutions. They also forced the locals to hand over their gold and jewelry. Over the next few years, Yamashita's troops are believed to have looted billions of dollars worth of gold from all over Southeast Asia. As Japan faced defeat in 1945, much of this plundered wealth was reportedly hidden in a complex tunnel system in the Philippines to conceal it from Allied forces. The scale of this legendary treasure is astounding, believed to include tons of gold bars, priceless jade statues, and other artifacts stolen from across the occupied territories. Despite numerous searches, conclusive evidence of Yamashita's gold has never surfaced. The most prominent searcher was former Filipino locksmith Rogelio Roxas, who claimed to have discovered portions of the treasure in the 1960s only to have it confiscated by President Ferdinand Marcos. Yet Marcos never produced any gold publicly, and Roxas's claims remain disputed. In the 1980s, a treasure hunter named Robert Curtis reportedly unearthed a solid gold Buddha statue and bars stamped with Nazi insignia in the Philippines, which could have constituted parts of the Yamashita loot. But this tiny fraction of the purported hoard did little to validate the extravagant legend. Skeptics dismiss Yamashita's gold as a post-war myth stemming from wishful thinking. Enthusiasts insist secrets of the loot's locations go to the grave with soldiers or looters. The truth likely rests somewhere in between, stolen riches hidden away, but on a far smaller scale than the legend portrays. Number 9. Nazi Gold Train. In the closing months of World War II, with defeat looming, Nazi officials desperately sought to hide valuable assets and loot from the advancing Allied armies. Among the most tantalizing of these last-ditch efforts was the legend of the Gold Train, believed to be loaded with gold, valuables, and precious artwork stolen by the Germans. According to the myth, in early 1945, a German train left the city of Breslau laden with ill-gotten treasures. It disappeared into a complex tunnel system in the Owl Mountains, part of an unfinished Nazi construction project known as Project Risi. The train and its hidden tunnel were said to have vanished without a trace, lost to history. This mystery gained renewed attention in 2015 when two men claimed they had discovered the train's hidden tunnel using ground-penetrating radar. However, excited excavations sanctioned by the Polish government turned up no evidence of the fabled train or tunnel network. While the train has so far proved elusive, the legend persists based on some documented facts. The Nazis did build extensive tunnels near the Polish town of Wałbrzych, and they used trains to store valuables. Though proof remains absent, the story continues to inspire treasure hunters and captivate the public. This specific train may be mythical, but it speaks to the very real disappearance of a regime built on terror, theft, and atrocity. Number 8. Sunken USS Yorktown. The USS Yorktown was one of the most storied U.S. Navy ships of World War II. An aircraft carrier, it participated significantly in actions from the Battle of the Coral Sea to Midway before ultimately being sunk during the Battle of Midway in June 1942. For decades, the Yorktown's wreckage lay undiscovered more than 3 miles below the Pacific Ocean's surface. It was not until 1998 that the lost carrier was finally located. Undersea explorer and historian Dr. Robert Ballard, famous for finding the Titanic wreck, led an expedition that used advanced deep-sea search technology to pinpoint the Yorktown resting on the seabed offshore of Midway Atoll. Examination of the remarkably intact wreck revealed much about the Yorktown's demise. Severe damage was evident in the barrage of torpedoes and bombs that struck the carrier before it sank. Debris trails showed the path of the doomed ship as it plunged underwater. Personal items and equipment provided glimpses of life aboard the vessel. The discovery helped bring closure to survivors and families of the crew after over 50 years of the ship's resting place remaining a mystery. It also allowed historians to better understand and visualize the Battle of Midway, a turning point in the Pacific War. Exploration of the wreck continues to uncover artifacts and information about this iconic warship. Number 7. The Ghost Army. One of World War II's most ingenious tactical deception units was the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the Ghost Army. This remarkable battalion of artists, designers, actors, and engineers expertly employed visual trickery, sound effects, and radio wizardry to mislead the enemy. Their clever ruses helped give Allied forces critical tactical advantages at crucial moments. The Ghost Army's primary strategy involved creating the illusion of large-scale U.S. forces where none existed. Inflatable tanks, fake artillery, plywood aircraft, and empty tent camps were carefully constructed to appear from the air as assembling battalions. Loudspeakers blasted sound effects of armored and infantry units in motion, while radio operators generated phony transmissions mimicking massive units mobilizing. These deceptions would distract and divert opposing forces away from real Allied movements and positions. Before D-Day, the Ghost Army staged a massive fictional buildup in southeast England indicating a landing at Calais rather than Normandy. During the Allies' drive into Germany, phantom units drew German attention and gunfire away from actual troops. Some estimate these deceptions saved thousands of lives. After the Ghost Army's achievements remained classified for decades, their remarkable impact has gained recognition. A PBS documentary and the book, The Ghost Army of World War II, have brought their exploits to light. In 2021, the U.S. Congress began consideration of awarding the Ghost Army a Congressional Gold Medal, honoring their vital deceptions that helped win the war. Number 6. The Bad Arolsen Archives. Deep in the small German town of Bad Arolsen lie 30 million heart-wrenching stories of lives impacted by Nazi persecution. This massive archive, known as the Bad Arolsen Archives, contains precious documentation on victims of the Holocaust and survivors who have helped millions reconstruct their pasts. The International Tracing Service Archive was established by the Red Cross in the aftermath of World War II to trace missing persons and reunite families. As the post-war chaos subsided, its scope expanded to create an exhaustive record of the victims of Nazi crimes. Millions of documents filled out by survivors, as well as records recovered from concentration camps and prisons, were consolidated in Bad Arolsen. This expansive archive serves as evidence of the scale and cold efficiency with which the Nazis implemented genocide. Records meticulously detail the arrests, movements, labor, and deaths of civilians across Europe caught up in the Holocaust machinery. They provide facts and corroboration for historians and are invaluable to relatives seeking information on lost family members. Because of privacy concerns, the Bad Arolsen archives remained closed to public access for decades until 2007. Since then, a digitization effort has worked to make the immense collection searchable online. Through the Every Name Counts project, the archives have engaged the public in helping organize and interpret the material. As the number of living Holocaust survivors dwindles, the Bad Arolsen archives grow only more vital. They ensure the victims' memories and truths about their fates are not lost. These records serve as a bulwark against misinformation and help preserve one of humanity's darkest chapters for future generations. They remind us that behind the statistics were millions of very real, very human lives. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. A group of self-proclaimed archaeologists recently unearthed a strange metal coffin engraved with a swastika. According to them, they stumbled upon this unexpected find just kilometers away from Hitler's Reich Chancellery Garden. Puzzled, they opened the sealed coffin and found a body bearing an uncanny resemblance to the Führer himself. Given the mysteries around Hitler's disappearance, this discovery raises some fascinating questions. Could this provide clues about Hitler's final days that historians have missed? We want to hear your theories on this artifact. Do you think it could rewrite history, or is there another explanation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. No theory is too outlandish. Number 5. Vanishing of Flight 19. One of the most puzzling aviation mysteries to emerge in the wake of World War II was the disappearance of Flight 19, a training flight of 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers that vanished during a routine exercise in 1945. Neither the wreckage of the planes nor the 14 crew members were ever found, despite extensive search efforts. The loss not only of Flight 19, but also of a searching aircraft with 13 men added to the deepening mystery. On December 50th, 1945, the 5 TBM Avenger planes of Flight 19 took off from their base at Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station for a training run up to the Bahamas and back. The flight consisted of an experienced flight instructor and 4 student pilots conducting navigation training. The relatively routine flight proceeded uneventfully until the return journey, when radio transmissions indicated the pilots had become disoriented and lost. The instructor pilot was heard trying to get his bearings, while the students became increasingly panicked about their fuel state as weather conditions deteriorated. After nightfall, all radio contact was lost as seaplanes likely ran out of fuel and went down at sea. A massive air and sea search commenced immediately, combing over 300,000 square miles for any sign of Flight 19 or its crew. Over the next 10 days, the Coast Guard, Navy, Air Force, and civilians scoured 24 hours a day for any trace. But no definitive wreckage, oil slick, bodies, or debris from Flight 19 was ever located despite the extensive search. Adding to the tragedy, one of the search aircraft, a PBM Mariner with 13 aboard, also disappeared without a trace on December 5, presumably also going down at sea. The loss of Flight 19 so soon after the war's end triggered waves of speculation, allegations, and conspiracy theories that continue to this day. Explanations ranging from paranormal activity to alien abduction have been put forth over the decades. More rational theories cite navigational error, equipment failure, and deteriorating weather as likely causes, but the full facts remain elusive. The disaster catalyzed the legend of the Bermuda Triangle, with Flight 19 helping cement the area's reputation for vanishing planes and ships. Number 4. Long-lost amphibious tank. In 2021, excavators digging on a construction site in England uncovered a surprising relic, a duplex drive or DD tank dating back to World War II. DD tanks, modified Sherman tanks made amphibious via attached flotation devices, made essential contributions on D-Day and other Allied amphibious operations in World War II. This particular M4A1 DD tank was one of several lost in 1941 during severe flooding around Lincolnshire, England. At least 5 of the amphibious vehicles, which had been brought to the area to help shore up flood control measures, were swept away by the deluge, disappearing without a trace. The fate of those tanks remained unknown for over 70 years before this DD tank finally emerged from its muddy grave. Remarkably preserved and intact despite its many years buried, the 31-ton tank was carefully extracted with its treads, 75-mile-meter cannon, ballast tanks, propellers, and other features still in place. Markings on the vehicle show it served with the 17th Tank Battalion, supporting river crossing operations in Europe in 1945, before being sent back to England. Military experts were delighted by the discovery of such an iconic World War II vehicle in its original condition. The DD tank represents an engineering marvel that helped the Allies overcome beach obstacles and reinforcements in the push into Axis territory on D-Day and later. A study of the tank can provide insights into these modified amphibious vehicles and their strengths and weaknesses that were critical to the Allied victory. For historians, the tank is like a vivid time capsule offering a glimpse into the past, showing the scale and ingenuity of World War II machinery. For local residents, it's a reminder that the landscapes of Britain still hide relics of the great struggle of World War just under the surface. The lost amphibious tank emerged from obscurity, a ghost from the past, to remind a community of its role in defeating tyranny. It will now be preserved and displayed for generations to come. Number 3. Remains of Soldier. In early 2022, the remains of a German soldier who perished during World War II were uncovered in the Netherlands by a treasure hunter scouring a field with a metal detector. Though just bones and tattered scraps of uniform, the find brought to light a poignant individual tragedy among the millions who lost their lives in the global conflict. The remains were found buried in a pit along with spent German ammunition and other equipment. The forensic study indicated the fallen soldier had been there since September 1944, during the ferocious Allied push to eject occupying German forces from the Netherlands. He was likely killed in a foxhole during an attack and then hastily buried by his surviving comrades. Though the soldier's identity is unknown, efforts are underway to potentially identify him through DNA testing, equipment markings, and wartime records. First afforded basic dignities with a small military funeral by the Dutch government, this long-dead serviceman represents just one forgotten thread in the vast human tapestry consumed by World War horrors. Number 2. Nazi artifacts. In early 2022, a surprising discovery was made in the German town of Hagen, a stash of Nazi artifacts hidden behind a wall, likely concealed since the final days of World War II over 75 years prior. The trove of Hitler memorabilia and equipment was uncovered during renovations on the home. Alongside newspapers dating precisely to April 1945, the collection included Hitler images, Nazi party armbands, wartime German currency, gas mask canisters, SS insignia, and a pistol. Based on the dates and location, the items were most probably hidden away by members of the Nazi Party and SS as Allied troops invaded Germany, bringing Hitler's genocidal regime to an end. The home had been the local headquarters of the Nationalsozialistische Volkswohlfahrt, or NSV, a Nazi social welfare organization. With Allied forces rapidly closing in on Hagen, the most fanatical members of the group likely secreted away these remnants and symbols of the dying Third Reich as a final act of desperate loyalty. Then the hiding place was hastily sealed up behind a wall, concealing the chilling items for generations. Upon studying his remarkable find, the current owner dutifully handed the artifacts over to a local World War II museum where they have become part of the permanent collection. While only a small sample of surviving Nazi memorabilia, the items provide insight into the psychology of ideological adherence as the war ground to a close. This glimpse into the mentality of die-hard fascists shows how fiercely allegiance can persist even in the face of impending defeat and collapse. Number 1. Bomb in the picnic. For one British family on an idyllic picnic outing in 2016, their pleasant day took an alarming turn with the discovery of an unexploded 200 kilograms bomb dating back to World War II. The highly dangerous explosive device unexpectedly turned up along a scenic riverbank in Nottinghamshire, where the Hibberts family was picnicking on a sunny spring day. At first, assuming it was just a discarded can or debris, David Hibbert picked up the object and carried it back to show his wife and daughters. After his wife dismissed it as worthless junk, Hibbert tossed the bomb aside in frustration. But upon doing internet research on his phone, he soon realized with gut-wrenching horror that he had stumbled upon a live explosive from the World War, not outdated garbage. The area had in fact once served as an active British Army base and training ground during the war over 70 years prior. Despite regular sweeps since then to remove munitions, these lethal relics still occasionally emerge from the soil, remnants of the past still retaining their deadly potential decades later. In this instance, the family had come chillingly close to tragedy. Once reported, an explosive ordnance disposal team from the British Army immediately rushed to the scene. The bomb squad carefully examined the device and safely detonated the bomb in a controlled explosion. But the unsettling incident is a vivid reminder that even generations later, dormant hazards from World War II still lurk in unexpected places, accidents waiting to happen. An innocuous family outing could have ended in unspeakable tragedy, demonstrating war's toxic legacy can persist long after the battle's end, the dangers evolving over time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.